Welcome everybody to the Genesis Mindset, and today is Mobic Monday. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be going over an overview of the release of the new white paper. So it's going to be very brief. I will go in depth on the white paper when we actually do launch the videos for it. But today it's just going to be a basic overview to give anyone who's been following along an overview understanding of what Bitmobic is actually all about. So let's get into the episode. So today's episode is titled Bitmobic White Paper Updates Overview. So the ecosystem birth. Within the white paper, it outlines that Bitmobic is a fork of Bitcoin by Professor Temin Oh, so Mr. Oh. And he actually did this on January 3rd, 2019. So this was Bitcoin's 10-year anniversary. And Professor Temin Oh is basically the leading Bitcoin expert in South Korea. So obviously Bitcoin was launched on January 3rd, 2009, birthed out of the global financial crisis. So this is 10 years following that. And what he did when he actually forked it, he mined naturally further supply, and then he also sped up the mining rate to increase the overall supply, which would go towards developing the ecosystem. So there's actually probably about maybe double the supply of Bitcoin at the moment, or less than double. But in the end, a lot of this supply is going to end up being burnt. So it's going to end up being probably a little bit less than Bitcoin because it's a forked project. All the people who currently hold Bitcoin, who don't claim their Bitcoin, who don't claim their Bitmobic, that supply is going to be burnt when the ecosystem is fully developed. And so the birth, now comes the growth. So 4.14 million was distributed during the airdrop phase, which happened throughout South Korea, USA, and Australia. And I did go over this in great detail because it was something that I've been very bullish on. So if you want to learn more about the airdrop stages, that's how I actually found out about it in Brisbane. And the whole principle, the whole thesis behind the airdrop is that people who go and spend time and energy and even money, so people from South Korea who flew to Australia, actually would value what they were given for free. And in this case, they certainly have, because the price has absolutely rocketed from those points. So they didn't know what it was going to do, but everybody has the holding mindset, because they've spent so much time and energy to actually get that Bitmobic. So it has value in their mind. And this was part of the thesis of the white paper. In addition to this, the other benefit of distributing the tokens in this particular way, distributing the tokens in this particular way was to avoid security risks. And there was no initial VC money. So there was no venture capital money. So this is a grassroots movement that started from the ground up. Now the ecosystem has continued to grow. The extra token supply has gone towards public goods to develop the ecosystem. So I have done videos on the public goods, but again, I will cover that in more detail in the white paper episode when I do that white paper episode. And the whole idea is that there's a supply of the tokens that are actually going to be distributed to universities, energy companies, IT companies, and media companies with the objective to grow and expand the ecosystem. That's the actual objective. And the final objective, which we will go into later, is rooted in this public goods narrative. So at the moment, there is one university that they have signed on with. There is a media company that they have signed on with. There is another university that they're potentially going to sign on with. No energy companies as yet, and no IT companies as yet. The ecosystem status at the moment, so it's currently running as a private blockchain. So it's not listed on any exchanges. So the public goods, as they're being distributed through this process before it's completed as a blockchain, then it will go public. So it's aiming to go public around about January 3, 2029, which will be 20 years after the Bitcoin launch. So 10 years after the Bitmobic launch will be. So the 10-year anniversary for Bitmobic will be when it's going to go public, but it could be sooner than that, simply because I don't think Teminor was expecting the prices to be this high. So it's actually very risky for him for him and his family to, basically, he's got access to the public goods, and there's millions and millions of supply that he's got access to, which is worth, millions and millions. It'd be worth hundreds of millions, if not billions at the moment. So it actually is a big risk for him to continue to hold it. So he wants to get rid of it as soon as possible and actually make public. And when it does go public, there is the chance that it will get launched on an exchange. But at the moment, everything is purely peer-to-peer. So it's all done, well, initially it was all done by the community. Now there's an app called Mobic Mania. So the eventual goal of the ecosystem of Bitmobic is it aims to be a blockchain which can be used and developed by corporations. So for example, a big IT company. So Mr. Orr has his eyes on the big 5 companies. So Google, Amazon, Samsung, Google, Amazon, Samsung, and then 2 others. I forget. Microsoft, and then not Nvidia, it's one more, but in any case, Apple. So Google, Samsung, Apple, Microsoft. Anyway, one of the 5 big, and obviously because he's South Korean, his objective is for it to be with Samsung. Now, the objective here is that companies currently, at the moment, they're not really leveraging the power of blockchains because of its speculative nature. The prices are so volatile. But more than that, it's actually a massive issue for them to create a token. So the reason why blockchains work, they actually do need a native token. There has been attempts to do it without tokens, and they've all pretty much failed. So there really needs to be a token ecosystem. And this is why it's a massive issue, is because 1, the speculative nature, and 2, by creating a token ecosystem, it actually creates a massive legal burden with securities. And as we saw with Libra, which was Facebook's attempt, it ended up being, they basically had to get rid of it because it didn't work, and they got into a lot of trouble, and it was just easier for them to abandon the project. So this is one of the reasons why his objective is actually first to create an ecosystem around the tokens and then distribute those tokens to a company, for example, Samsung, and then for Samsung to take it over and then to utilize the blockchain as an IT company and to develop it, and with the power that the blockchain should be used by. At the moment, it's not really used by that. At the moment, it's really predominantly, it's just speculation. So it's meme coin speculations. Everyone's just trading the prices. There are use cases for it, absolutely, but it hasn't been globally adopted in a way that we can say the technology is being fully utilized, the blockchain technology. So this is one of his big visions, his big goals. So with that, just a very short episode today, a quick episode just for the basic overview of the white paper. Like I said, when I do get the full launch of the white paper, the video is currently released in South Korean, so it's released in Korean. And when it's released in English, I will go over that as well when there is the full white paper overview, because again, it's something where I've actually done the draft white paper on my website below. So if you do want to read it, it'll be in the description below. And by progressively reading it and studying it and learning about it, it's really matured in my mind what this actually is. Along the way, there's been light bulb moments. This is what they're trying to do. This is what they're trying to do. That's what they're trying to do. I get it now. So it's really important, if you're really interested in this project, to progressively keep studying it and learning about it, and it will click. And it's actually very, very simple, but our own minds tend to overcomplicate things. So with that, I hope you enjoyed that. Hopefully you learned something, and take care. We'll see you next week.